Okay, today we are going to discuss about introduction to 3D animation. Last time we have finished 2D animation and filmmaking techniques. Now this time we are going to learn about introduction to 3D animation. What is 3D animation? What is 3D? Actually, for filmmaking, we are using cameras and uh, we are shooting. We are shooting by using cameras. So that is only 3D. That is not a only 2D. That is not a 3D. Now this sem onwards till end of your course, you have been specializing in 3D animation. Now for 3D animation, we are using a different software, which is a world famous software. The all the big companies in animation industry around the world, they are using the Maya software. Here we have Maya software interface. This is the interface of Maya software. Every software having its own interface. For Photoshop having its own interface, as well as Premiere and DaVinci Resolve and Pro Tools and Neondo. These two are used for audio. We have already spoken about that. And every software having interface. Interface in the sense where we are going to work in that software. So looking at this, this is the interface of Maya. Here we have menu bar. First one, this is the title bar. In title bar, it represents the what software we are using, what software we have opened. This one is Autodesk Maya 2014 X64 Untitled. Actually, X64 it represents this is a 64-bit software. We have already discussed about operating systems 32-bit and 64-bit. Now our system is a 64-bit operating system, so our processor is capable of a 64-bit processing. So we have to use a 64-bit software. This one is a 64-bit software and version is 2014. And suppose if our system and our processor is a 32-bit processor, then we are not been able to use this 64-bit in the 32-bit. But if it is a 64-bit processor, we have used a 64-bit processor and 64-bit operating system, then we can able to use either 32-bit operating 32-bit software or 64-bit software. So we are using 64-bit because of for speed we are using 64-bit software, that is Autodesk Maya 2014 version and 64-bit software. Untitled in the sense I have not given any name to this particular file, this particular project. If I am giving any name, then here shows the particular that only this project. Next project we can give another name also. So first this is title bar, and next one is menu bar, and next is the tools bar, the and next one is shelf, and here comes right side we have channel box and layer editor. That means suppose if we are selected here, the channel box and layer editor only displays, and suppose if we click this button here, attributes will open. Okay, attribute editor will come like this. Here whenever we are selecting an object, we are working on that object, that particular object's attributes, all the attributes will come load here only. So in channel box, how we have in channel box in Photoshop, like that only we have in channel box, and here we have layers and options and help and all the things, and left side we have toolbox, and down we have views. Actually, the uh, Maya 3D software, whatever the 3D softwares, whether it is Maya, Houdini, or 3ds Max, whatever the 3D softwares, they will have their own cameras. That's why we have learned before this course. We have learned in previous semesters the camera techniques, basic 2D camera techniques. So here in Maya, every 3D software having their own cameras. Those cameras views will be showed here, here, down there. Here we can see the all camera views. First one is perspective, where we are actually, here shows the name of that camera. This is actually a camera of Maya. This one perspective, and next box is when we click next box, we'll have four views. That means four cameras will be visible in work area. This total window is called work area. Yeah, when we click this four view panel, four view button, we can get these four cameras. Actually, one view shows the one camera. That means these are default cameras in Maya. This one is a top camera, and this one is a perspective camera. In perspective camera, we can adjust, we can rotate, we can zoom in, zoom out, we can dolly in, dolly out, and we can move, translate, and horizontally, vertically. We can do anything in this perspective. But whereas in side view, this is front view and this is side view, this is top view. Whereas in these views, the visibility is restricted. Only we can able to move horizontally and vertically. Okay. And every camera having their own menu set. Here view and shading, lighting, show, render, and panels. Like that, every camera view having these main menus. And here these are for when we are working on rendering and texturing, we can use all these things. We can learn everything one by one. And next thing is selecting this third button. We can have perspective, and this one is outliner. This one is outliner editor, and this one is perspective. Now nothing is showed here, only perspective, top, front, and side, default light set, default object set. These are all default. When we select an object, when we are working on an object in the perspective, those things will be showed in the outliner editor. Next one is, next button is this is two panels. Last one also two panels, but vertically. This one is two panels horizontally. When we select this one, we can have perspective and graph editor. This one is a graph editor. Graph editor is mainly used for animation. When we are doing animation, we have to use this graph editor. We have to, mostly we will work in this graph editor. Okay, come back to perspective view. Now, how to create an object, how to work on an object in Maya. First of all, for example, we'll take a cube. Here we have shelf. Here we have shelf, and here we have a drop down list for what are the things we are going to do in animation. According to that, we have to select this graph, because whenever we are changing this this drop down list, according to that, the main menu will adjust themselves. That means main menu will change, because suppose we are in animation. For animation, we are having all these menus, and if we select polygons, polygons is for modeling. If you select polygons, here you can observe the menus are changed. These menus are changed. These are not like as before, because before we are in animation. So we have animation menus. When we select polygons, that means modeling part, then we have changed the menu set according to modeling. Like that, we have surfaces, and these things, dynamics for special effects, and rendering for finally we will render the things. That means in Maya, whatever the things we are doing in Maya, everything is in gray mode. After that, we have to apply colors, textures, and lighting, and finally we will do animation, and finally we will give the output. So whatever we are doing in Maya, those things will be able to watch in Maya only. That means in Maya software only we have been able to see everything. So we are not been able to watch this content in television, in mobile phone, or in movie theater, or in a broadcast, whatever it may be. We are not been able to watch it. To watch that one, we have to render. That means this is nothing but actually in programming, probably you may know that compilation. You can write the program. After compilation only you can get the output of that program. Suppose if you are working in C, if you are working in Java, if you are working in Python, whatever the program you are working, you have to give output. To give that output, you have to compile that program. Then only you can get the final output. Like that, in graphics softwares, in multimedia, in animation and graphics softwares, you have to render the things. That means your work environment will convert to will render all the content to the some output. The output also we have to select. Suppose if you want to output our content in HD TV, if we want to output our content in 4K television, if we want to output our content in a broadcast. Suppose we want to broadcast our output, and if you want to give our output to the movies like big theaters or IMAX theaters. So according to that, we have to select the render format. Okay, then only we can able to output our work. So this is for rendering and dynamics like that. We have all in we have so many things in a drop down list. We'll see one by one. Okay, now what is 3D software? So what is the difference of 2D and 3D? 2D is nothing but a drawing, a painting, a drawing, which has two axes, two dimensions, that is x and y. So that is called 2D. Whatever we are drawing and doing things is only two axes. That is that is 2D. Now 3D. 3D having another dimension. That means 3D having depth. So 3D having x, y and z axis. X is a horizontal, y is a vertical, and z. Z axis is depth. So adding depth. That is in 3D we are working on three dimensions, three axes. First, this one is called grid. Okay, this one called grid. With our mouse, left mouse button, click on left mouse button and hold Alt on keyboard, then click on left mouse button. The cursor will change like this. Okay, then we can rotate we can able to rotate, and again on keyboard keep on pressing Alt key and right mouse button, we can zoom in and zoom out. We can zoom in and zoom out. Like the same way, keep on pressing Alt button on keyboard, middle mouse button, click on middle mouse button, then immediately the cursor changes like that. So these are translations, left, right, top and bottom. So translates in x direction, y direction. Okay. Now we'll take one object. Maybe I'll take a sphere. In the shelf, I'm going to take here a sphere, or otherwise coming to here, create. We have create menu is here, and we have knobs primitives, polygonal primitives, volume primitives like lights, cameras, like so many things related to modeling. All the things related to modeling are in this menu, in this drop down list. In create menu drop down list, will have all the things related to modeling in 3D. Now in Maya we can do the same thing in different ways. So we have so many shortcut options in Maya, but the same thing is doing in many ways. So I can take from here, or coming to here, create and polygon primitives, cube, like that also we can take. Suppose if we want to change these cube values before creating, switching on that square box here will already give some values. Okay. Now I want to create see here already created. Okay, here there itself. We are not been able to watch properly. Then on keyboard, if you want to press F key, then it is focusing that object. Okay, pressing Alt key, zoom out. Okay, and now our object seems in wireframe mode. So in wireframe mode, we can see object like this. When we press 5 on keyboard, the object seems to be like that. This is in shaded mode. Okay, so I want to delete this one, and I want to create another cube. Okay, to create like that. Okay, the cube is created, and imagine this grid as ground. Imagine this one is the work area is world, and this is ground. So whatever the things we are doing, make sure those things would be on the ground. For selecting these things, select that one, and if you want to, when we are selecting, you can identify in the channel box. We have so many channels. In channel box, we have so many channels of this cube. What are there? Translation. Actually, this cube having 3 axes. What are those axes? X-axis and Y-axis and Z-axis. Here we have showing the axes, 3 axes. For every axis having X, Y, Z values. For example, for translation we have X, and translation is in 3 directions, X, Y, Z, as well as rotation in 3 directions, X, Y, Z. Scale in 3 directions. Last one is visible. Every object having visibility. Suppose if you want to click here a 0, enter 0 value, the visibility offs. So should not do any time like this. Whenever we are pressing, the visibility will on, then our object will be visible. Now seeing one by one what all these axes, what is translation, what is rotation, what is a scale. In translation, what these XYZ axis and rotation XYZ and scale XYZ, how these are working. Now taking this one, make this one everything 0. That means the object is at the origin of this grid, that is nothing but center of that grid, and we have we know that this grid is like a ground, so our object should be on the ground. So we have to move this object. See, this is already going down, so we have to move this object on the ground. So for moving that one, on keyboard press W. Whenever we are pressing W, we can have this manipulator. This is called manipulator. We can it shows the manipulator. This is translation manipulator. Suppose if you want to press E key on keyboard, we can have like this manipulator. This is for rotation. That means W for translation, E for rotation, and pressing R for scale. Okay, every for everything the manipulator is changing by pressing the E. For translation, rotation, and scale, the manipulator symbols are changing, and all manipulators are having three values, the X, Y, and Z values. Now, how these things are working? For translation, taking first pressing W, I am selecting a translation manipulator. Now, I want to move here, observe here in this channel box. In translation X, what is translation X? Here, you can easily identify this translation X. Okay, translation X. When we are applying translation X, going beyond. Okay, and you can observe these values in channel box. Okay, and take this one as -10, and now I want to move this cube onto the ground plane, that is nothing but onto the this grid. So in perspective view, so for that I am moving this one in Y direction. So I am not been able to properly define the proper contact of that grid. So at that time I am pressing space bar and press here this second box, that means for view panel. Yeah, in for view panel, till now we have worked in a perspective view. Now we are coming to side view or front view. Maybe I can adjust this one here. Okay, I have to move this object till the origin, so that this object should be on the ground. Okay, now we can move this object again, going back to for view mode. Select the object and move in this direction. That means I'm adjusting along with the origin. Make this one 0. And now our object is in the center. So now our object is in the center. Now this is about translation. For any object, whatever the things, translation works like this. And next one is rotation. How rotation works? Suppose for applying rotation, for applying transition, we have selected W key on keyboard. For applying rotation, we have to select E key on the keyboard. That manipulator will changes like this. Now we will rotate. Actually, whatever the axis we are selecting, that selected axis will become yellow. Okay. Now I am selecting this axis, rotation Z. So in only Z axis we are rotating. Okay. Only Z axis. And selecting in X axis, only X axis we are rotating. And again selecting Y axis. In Y axis only it is rotating. So for rotation, for applying rotation to our objects, we have to use rotation X, Y, Z axes. And next thing is scale. Okay, scale X, Y, Z. How to scale this object, this cube? Now by pressing the R key on keyboard, the manipulator is changed. Whenever we are observing like this manipulator, it is called a scale manipulator. Okay. If you want to scale uniformly in X, Y, Z axes, if you want to scale this a cube in uniform, you have to go to this yellow cube. Okay. There, click on that and drag the mouse so that uniformly this is scaling. If you want to make a small, uniformly it is scaling. Okay. And in scale X, Y, Z, how to scale in X axis, how to scale in Y axis, and how to scale in Z axis. Suppose if you select this green one, actually I have not selected anything. So the green one shows translation Y, and red one shows translation Z, and blue one shows translation translation X is red one, and blue one shows translation Z. How we can identify? Here in the left side, left down side of the window, in this panel, we can identify this green one shows Y, Y is in green, and X is in red, and Z is in blue color. So that in the manipulators, the X represents the red color box represents X, and green color box represents Y, and blue color box represents Z. Z axis, that is also called Z and Z axis, whatever it may be, we can call Z axis or Z axis. Now this center one is uniform scale. We already discussed just now. This is a uniform scale. Now I want to select in Y axis. So whenever you want to scale in one axis, you must have to select that axis first here, or otherwise you can give values here in channel box also. Suppose I want to select this Y axis and now this one. Okay, in Y axis it is increasing. You can observe in the scale Y axis it is observed, it is increasing. Y axis it is increasing. and you can give value here directly to this any axis according to our work. Suppose I can make this one as a 1. I am going to give 1 value, so it becomes like that, and I'm going to make x value also 1, and I'm going to make z value also 1, so it becomes like that. So we can adjust here, or we can adjust here. We can give values here. However it may be, we can go do the things for applying those scale, rotation and translation values. And by taking these primitives, this sphere, cube, cylinder, torus and plane, whatever it may be, by using all these things, we can create models. These are polygonal primitives, and we are having surfaces, nubs primitives. We can use any of the primitive, and we can model. And down here we have timeliner. This is called timeliner. It shows the time of the animation, frames. In timeliner we can identify the frames, and here shows 1 and 24. That means 1 is the starting frame and 24 is the ending frame. Actually here we have time range slider. This is the range slider, and these boxes are for giving the values for frames. Whatever frames we want to take, those values we have been able to take in here. We are going to give here. Okay, here shows 48, but in time slider, in time range, we are only been able to watch 24 frames only. Why? Because this is restricted to the time range slider is restricted to 24 frames, even though that means it has 48 frames inside, but we have been able to watch only 24 frames. If you want to see all the frames, just move this one till the end. The range slider is moving till the end. We can have 48 frames. That means total frames in this time slider is 1 to 48 frames. So in this 48 frames only we are going to animate, and I need to take 1000 frames. Actually here we can give infinite number of frames. We can take infinite number of frames, and that is positive, plus infinity or minus infinity, whatever it may be. We can give infinite number of frames. Suppose I want to take 500 frames. So time slider also showing the 500 frames. In the range slider, in the time slider, we are having 500 frames. Okay, and more we will discuss these things in animation. And coming to here, this is the transport bar. This one is a transport bar used for these things are only used for animation. When we are doing animation, that time only these things will be used. Actually what we have play, stop, forward, rewind, step forward, step backward, and end frame and starting frame, like that. How we have in our music players, iPods, in video players like that only, same like a transport transport panel, this one. And down we have key selections, auto key, and character set selections, and we have preferences for this software. By clicking here, we directly go to preferences. Here we can change preferences. Slowly we will see all these things. Okay, like this, we'll take objects and we'll create, we will model, and we will animate, and we will give some special effects in this software, and finally we will render for movie, broadcast, or mobile phone, or whatever required, we can give the output. So this is a basic introduction about the interface of this 2014 Maya. And alternate days you are having class, and next class you will be having, we'll start modeling. Next class onwards we'll start modeling.